Let's talk to the host of Piers Morgan Uncensored. Piers Morgan flew in just for our audience here in America and for you guys at home. Piers, great to see you.
There is only one human being who would get me to fly across the Atlantic and then on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock come and join this cavernous studio, and it's you, Kill Me.
I'm honored.
I did it for you.
I also know you're passionate about what's happening right now. You watched the whole rally. Your thoughts?
I did. Riveting. Let's just remind ourselves, it's a week ago tonight, that Donald Trump was on a stage, another rally, and he got shot, nearly assassinated. His doctor said it was a quarter of an inch was the difference between being alive and dead. And tonight, he goes out with a much bigger crowd, tens of thousands of people. He doesn't know who they are. You know, he's just standing on that stage, right, bold as brass, like nothing has happened. He did a 2-hour show, is what it is. He's the Mick Jagger of politics, Donald Trump. But I kept looking at him thinking, you were shot a week ago on a stage at a rally. Who would come back within a week and be back on a stage at a bigger rally? Donald Trump. And I think that the dynamic, the difference between the Republicans right now, led by Trump, the guy who was defiant with the punch when he got shot, who's back on stage, incredible energy tonight in that whole performance and the crowd and everything with him, compared to the Democrats, who are literally falling apart at the seams and have in Joe Biden somebody who barely knows what day it is. So the contrast could not be more stark. But I've got to say, in terms of the politics of this is one of the most dramatic things I have ever witnessed in my life.
And that's what I got the sense at the Republican convention. People thought they were part of history. Yeah. Because not only, you always wonder what will happen if you're confronted. He gets shot in the head. All he knows is he's bleeding. And he stood up and put his hands in the air and said, fight, fight, fight.
As Mark Zuckerberg said, whatever you think of him, one of the most badass moments that you could ever imagine. And I think it's given him all the momentum he needs. I thought Trump was going to win before this. I think now it's an absolute nailed-on certainty.
So now it goes into the investigation of the assassination, and now you have this 20-year-old, and we're going to get into it a little bit later in detail. It turns out he was in contact with 3 different platforms in 3 different countries: New Zealand, Belgium, and Germany. It turns out he was there early in the morning. He was flying a drone, taking it over. What answers do you want from this investigation?
Well, first of all, what the hell were the Secret Service doing? So the Washington Post tonight reports that actually, contrary to the briefings...
Minutes before we got on the air tonight.
Right. The breaking news is that actually the Trump security detail, the Secret Service agents with him, had persistently requested more agents and more support, and they were rejected. Now, if that is true, then I'm sorry, but the director of the Secret Service, who is somehow still holding on to her job, has got to go.
How about Homeland Security Secretary who told Michael Waltz, who broke that story, the congressman, former Green Beret, he said it's irresponsible to say something like that and it's not true.
And what was he saying today, that guy? He was saying, you know what we should really be focused on? That some of the female agents are being picked on social media. Really? You think that is what the big scandal is here? That some people on X are saying mean things about your agents? A, they should be able to deal with mean comments. But B, what were they all doing that day? How does a 20-year-old weirdo loner kid with an AR-15 get onto a roof 150 yards from a man who was president until recently and will most certainly be president again? It is an absolute scandal. Donald Trump came that close to being killed. And I think heads should roll at the Secret Service for this, because it's one of the biggest ball droppings I've seen.
Absolutely. And a little bit later, Donald Trump did comment on this with Jesse Waters. We have a clip. He's going to tell you what he thought. The fact is, they knew this guy was there an hour ago, a suspicious person, an hour before he shot former President Trump, and they still let President Trump get on stage on time and didn't say a word.
None of it makes sense, Brian. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not espousing any conspiracies here, but none of this makes sense. We need proper answers.
Every day, the Secret Service should have been briefing us and the world. Now, I want to talk about President Biden. You have written for a couple of years now that he is not well, that he's not all there, he's cognitively in decline, and now all of a sudden Nancy Pelosi realizes it, and Chuck Schumer realizes it, Adam Schiff realizes it. What is your view about what's happening now as they stab him in the back?
A, the treachery is there to be seen, but B, they've all known what Joe Biden's cognitive condition has been like. They've all been around him. I wrote column after column for the New York Post in which I said, I'm sorry, look at this man. if you go back and look at a video of Joe Biden 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, there is no comparison to the man we see today. It's a sad, pretty much now tragic thing that's unfurling of a man who's in cognitive decline, probably has the early onset of dementia, who is barely able to think or speak straight. And he's the president of the United States, leader of the free world, and wants us to believe he can do 4 more years.
And he won't leave. And they're putting all the pressure possible from the left, and he won't leave. And guess who's standing with him? The squad, Bernie Sanders, and his former chief of staff. Lastly, I was dying for your perspective. You're in Britain, you're watching this. President Trump's been your friend. You've interviewed him multiple times. You go back before The Apprentice. Your thoughts, can you give us an idea what the world thinks about what's happening?
Honestly, I think that in Britain, if it's just a snapshot of the world, unbelievable shock of what happened. I remember waking up last Sunday morning and just getting a blizzard of messages from all around the world. Incredible shock, and then actually incredible admiration for the way that Donald Trump responded after being shot. The idea that without even knowing there were other shooters out there, that he made himself get up and punch the air and say, fight, 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 in the way that he did. Again, the comparison with Biden, who then was seen yesterday or the day before, barely able to walk down the steps of Air Force One. The comparison is stark. Trump can do a 2-hour show tonight with all his greatest hits. People say he's changed. Maybe he's now looking at life in a different way.
He was happy tonight.
I got to say, he looked about as happy as I've ever seen him tonight. He's a man who thinks he's going back to the White House. And honestly, the Democrats only have themselves to blame. What have they done in the last year? They've tried to weaponize the justice system against him. They tried to get him slung off ballots. They've tried every sneaky, underhand thing they can do. And I say to my liberal friends, big mistake. Because what you've done with this, you've made him more popular, you've raised him more money, and what the assassination attempt has done is it's actually made a lot of Americans, whether they were pro-Trump or not, think, wow, that was badass, that was ballsy.
Elon Musk is now in Trump's camp. Do you think other people, everyday Americans, or even other leaders around the world, do you think they might give him another shot, people that have shut him down?
Yeah, look, Donald Trump, as we know, he's not an angel. If he was here now, he wouldn't admit to being an angel, right? He has his faults, he has his problems. I've criticised him as much as I've praised him. But what you can't say about Donald Trump now is he's not, a great survivor. I always say he has the thinnest skin and the thickest skin of anyone I know. Right. Thinnest, he'll react to everything and go to DEFCON 3. Right. But the thickest, he soaks up stuff, including, it turns out, what was his best line tonight? He said, they say I'm trying to wreck democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. I thought that was an incredibly smart, powerful line, only matched by his new running mate, J.D. Vance, whose response to Kamala Harris was, yeah, you know what I did to serve my country? I was in the United States Marine Corps. Where were you? So I thought, listen, I think it's going great for the Republicans, great for Donald Trump. And the Democrats, look, if they keep with Biden, they have 0 chance of beating Trump. If they go with somebody else, they might have 0.01.
Check out Uncensored on YouTube. It's a huge hit. And you are, Donald Trump might not be an angel, but I think Piers Morgan is.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Brian.
much.
I am for flying in just to do this.
Yes, you are. Piers Morgan, thanks so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.